Palestinians seeking refuge in Israel. The director joins us in the studio to tell us what happened. Plus, Zoe Strimpel's new book, with an evocative new title, has seemingly ruffled everyone's feathers as she explores why are both feminists and the right so terrified to acknowledge that women have never had it so good. Plus, we'll be speaking to the director of new documentary Speechless, which delves into the heart of the culture war crisis across US universities. But first, the news with Lewis Mackenzie.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Your 7 o'clock headlines from the GB Newsroom. No more Mr. Nice Guy. That's the latest threat from President Donald Trump, who is accusing Iran of violating the ceasefire. It's in response to Iran shooting at two ships in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, one French ship and a British freighter. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says the vital shipping lane will remain closed until the US lifts its blockade on Iranian ports. But Donald Trump insists that won't happen until Tehran agree to a deal. Former chair of the Defense Select Committee, Tobias Ellwood, spoke to GB News.
If I'd have had one objective for this war of choice, I would have said that Iran must move forward, transition into a place where there's no longer a religious leader, a theocratic dictator in charge of a country in the 21st century. But that was never an objective. So we're still left with this IGC, which is able to use its weapon systems, what's called, a mosquito fleet, which is a nice summary, jet skis, over-the-shoulder missile systems and so forth, fast boats to cause the havoc right across the straits. And that is very difficult for even the might of the American military to be able to actually push back on.
The Prime Minister is being accused of a cover-up over the appointment of Lord Peter Mandelson as the UK ambassador in Washington. Sir Keir Starmer has said neither he or any ministers knew Lord Mandelson failed security vetting prior to him taking up the job. But he's facing mounting pressure to publish all the evidence of the process after reports officials within the Foreign Office warned against the move over concerns of Mandelson's alleged links to China and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, 8 children between the ages of 1 and 14 have been killed in a mass shooting in Louisiana. Local police say they were killed in a, quote, domestic disturbance at around 6 a.m. local time. Police Chief Wayne Smith confirmed the gunman was shot by police during a vehicle chase and that some of the children shot were related to the suspect. Mr. Smith said the crime scene had extended across 3 separate locations, adding, "This is an extensive scene unlike anything most of us have ever seen." We'll, of course, bring you more on that later on in the show. And finally, the Metropolitan Police say it's investigating a possible link to Iranian proxies after a campaign targeting Londoners, specifically the Jewish community. It comes as counter-terror police lead another investigation into an attempted arson attack reported at a northwest London synagogue after several similar incidents in the area in recent weeks. London's Counter-Terrorism Policing Deputy Assistant Commissioner Vicky Evans spoke earlier.
I've spoken previously about the Iranian regime's use of criminal proxies, and we're considering whether this tactic is being used here in London. This is recruiting violence as a service, and the people who conduct that violence often have little or no allegiance to the cause and are taking quick cash for their crimes.
The Community Security Trust says the incident at Kenton United Synagogue in Harrow last night caused minor internal smoke damage, but no injuries have been reported. The Prime Minister says he's appalled by the incident, which follows attacks on the Jewish community in Finchley, Golders Green and Hendon this month. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in an hour's time.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is a show where we cast our gaze across the spectrum of culture, current affairs and politics, doing our best to bring a bit of common sense to that which has become senseless. We have lots to talk about in the next 2 hours, including a Girl Guide group's at risk of disappearing. A group in Liverpool are switching to become scouts amid a row over the organisation's transgender policy. Why are feminists and the right both so terrified to acknowledge this is the best time to be a woman? And of course, myself and my fantastic panel will be answering some questions from our wonderful studio audience. But first, are lesbians at risk of becoming an endangered species? That's a question posed recently by activist, author and actress Tonje Gjevjon at the LGB conference this week. To much acclaim, Tonje has launched Kindred in Chaos, 19 lesbians in the age of gender identity. The book features 19 essays from lesbians from 12 countries around the world, highlighting their experience of marginalisation within the LGBTQ+ community. Each of the essays focuses on the impact of gender identity, politics, on lesbian spaces, language and identity. And I'm thrilled to say joining me now is the author, activist and actress Tonje and contributor and consultant Alison Ellis. Welcome to the show. I have the book here. Someone lent it to me, and you very kindly gave me a copy. I read it this week. It had quite a profound impact, frankly, because I hadn't really at all appreciated. We've talked for many years now about the impact of gender identity on lesbians, but also on, of course, children and free speech. But actually having this book and reading these people's personal experiences, it's a short book, but it was very disturbing, frankly, Tonje, and I imagine it was even more disturbing to see it with your own eyes.
Yeah, it was very disturbing because when I was a child and a young girl, it was no confusion about that there are actually just two sexes and men can't be lesbians. And we had, when I became younger, not younger, but I, like 14, 15, 16, I understood I was a lesbian, and when I was 18, I found these lesbian bars dedicated to lesbians, and to be young and be able to drink, flirt, and dance in lesbian bars with only women really it shaped me as a person, and was really important because it's a lesbian culture, and it gives you something really important. And when these young lesbians, when I read their stories and talked to them, I got really angry because there are no places or events where they can meet and just have fun and be young and flirt and look at other lesbians and do what young people do. So yeah, it really got to me.
Yeah, well, Alison, your story is in this book. Yeah. Is that your experience coming of age at a time of gender identity, that there weren't these spaces there?
Yeah, so a lot of young lesbians now growing up, they tend to want to find other lesbians to connect with, but instead when they go to, say, like a local LGBT youth group, which is what happened in my story, the first thing that they will likely ask you is what do you identify as and what your pronouns are. And most of the other young people in that group identify as things like demisexual, pansexual, but I didn't understand what any of this was, even when I was 15, and I was just a lesbian looking for community.
You don't identify as a lesbian, you just
Absolutely
are a lesbian.
Not. Yes, you are. Yeah.
One of the things that I also hadn't really ever appreciated, because I've had, I've never had to think about it, was that homophobia against lesbians seems very different from what I've understood homophobia to how it existed before, because it's twinned with misogyny, and I never made that connection. I know that probably seems ridiculous coming from a straight guy and making that, but that's one of the things that that came across to me was I'd never appreciated how the misogyny and homophobia together, and it seems like, I wonder if that, do you think, has also combined then with gender identity to kind of erase lesbians, because there are so many stories here of the women talking about how their girlfriends just kind of go, I'm non-binary, and now I'm actually a man. And there just seems to be a total eradication of lesbians, almost.
Yeah, and also like the lesbians who have written the story, they describe like lesbian is a dirty word. And it's like if they say they are lesbians, it's like they are attacked from the other non-binaries and whatever they call themselves. And it's like also they to exclude men is like that's what lesbians do. It's only women, but that's not accepted in this LGBT sub. So and then they are called a thing. They are being bullied. They are harassed if they try to stand up for themselves and say that. But listen, I'm a lesbian. It's only lesbians and women I want to like are attracted to, and then they are called bigots, and like what happens to them is like they isolate because the community that was supposed to be their natural habitat is not welcoming them. They isolate, and then they they go on the net and they Google the words TERF and transphobes because that's what they called, and then they find women like Julia Long and Julia Bindel, LGB Alliance, all these women who have like tried to talk about how important it is that homosexual is like sex attraction, it's not identity attraction. And then they understand that they are actually sane, not insane, and that they are not alone. And this book like gathers these 19 stories. So it's like I think it's an important book for young lesbians to read, so they understand that all these thoughts and facts that they naturally they know that men can't be women, but that's they are not alone thinking it. So they need to find other lesbians, other young lesbians and older lesbians, just to try to have a good community to be with.
Well, that's it. I don't want to be all doom and gloom because, frankly, I was upset, and I was also very angry reading the book. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. The book was presented. I was at the panel yesterday. I got to see it. A packed room of lesbians, and I was like invading. There was a sort of irony there of like men invading women's spaces, and I was like, oh, should I be or not? But at the same time, it was about lesbians finding each other. This was at a packed LGB Alliance conference, which I believe was the highest number of attendees ever. So, do you think that now lesbians are getting to find each other? There is this recreation of a lesbian culture that has kind of been decimated over the last decade or so.
Yes, so the other young woman that was on the panel with me and is also a contributor to Kindred in Chaos in sharing her story is Miranda, and she co-organises a group in London.
So people are, so it's finding that. And your personal life, have things now that you've sort of teamed up, typing in Julie Bindel and TERFs, and now you've actually been able to find other lesbians and be just with, there's nothing wrong with exclusion of that.
Exactly,
that's how it works.
Yeah, so I looked at what a TERF was on the internet, and I kept seeing all these small snippets of lesbians being harassed and being bullied by these trans activists who are men who fetishize dressing up and as a woman and pretending to be a lesbian, and expects young lesbians to be attracted to them when we're not. And
call them bigots if they're not.
Yes,
that's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
This whole cotton ceiling thing, we've talked about this before, but it's unbelievable that you have straight men essentially accusing young lesbians of being bigots for not sleeping with them. That's the world that we've had the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, and so I basically looked at what a TERF was on the internet, and then eventually I found Magdalene Byrne's YouTube videos, and it was mind-blowing to realise that you've been lied to most of those years about like this community that you're expected to find and stuff, and it's all full of people pretending to be gay and lesbian. It's crazy.
It's funny that that was almost like a recurring theme, is that a bunch of people would go online, find Magdalene Burns, and then they, you know, unfortunately no longer with us. But for me too, I had a similar experience. You watch her videos and she just so succinctly explains the madness of the last few world. But the fact that this book can exist, the fact that lesbians were able to come together to create it and put it out there, are you optimistic for the future now?
Yes, I am, and I'm also optimistic because of these 19 contributors, because they have the right instincts. They know that men can't be lesbians, and they also have the integrity to just say it loud, and also stay in this isolate, but then find other lesbians. So we will build ourselves communities so we can meet without men pretending to be lesbians knocking on the door.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for making this book. Kindred in Chaos, there's a picture of it there. I would genuinely highly recommend it. It's also quite short. Julia Long pointed out that makes it the best kind of book. It's a nice short book. And yes, I found it incredibly impactful. So thank you very much for joining us. Big round of applause.
Thank you.
Next on Free Speech Nation, we're going to have a debate. Should comedy get government funding? In which case, how much money should I get? We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time. But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. It's one of our most recognised industries, comedy, renowned throughout the world. But industry leaders are now warning the next generation of stars could struggle to find their voice without more funding. One option is the Irish model, where some comedians are now receiving a yearly salary of £14,700 a year. To debate this, I am joined now by Louisa Jackson, founder of Crack, the global operating system for comedy, and comedian Scott Capurro. Big round of applause. So, Scott, first of all, it should be said, we're both comedians. You've been a comedian longer than I have. When you were a new comic, would you have liked £15,000 a year to survive on?
No, yeah, I mean, it would have been great. Although I have to say that when I used to come over in the 90s, the 1890s, the Beeb used to fly me over, and they were pretty generous with their fees. So I didn't really... there was no necessity for any sort of government handout.
But what about back when you were in America, when you were starting out there? Surely you had to do gigs for free.
You know, I was reading about this before you mentioned Lou was going to be on the show. I've been reading about it for a while now. And my feeling is I think the government should spend money building venues. What I had when I started was an LGBT venue. Which was great. It was for everyone, but it promoted those sorts of acts if they needed stage time. And that was the most helpful thing I could have, was a supportive atmosphere where I could be myself, and I knew I could get stage time to build my voice. That's how comics build their voice. Not when they're handed money. I don't think that's really going to help. I think you find your voice by working, by being on stage. So I think the money could be spent, promoting venues. I think the venues are diminishing since the pandemic, especially. I think they could kind of sink money into getting an audience in, really.
Yeah, well, essentially, I feel a little bit differently about this, Louisa, because comedy venues got a lot of money during COVID, and the idea was to support the comedy industry, and frankly it just went to the venue owners. None of it really went to the actual comedians who suffered during that time. But you think that this could be a good idea for nurturing new talent?
I think both need to be looked at. So actually, so with the comedy industry, speaking about the UK, because that's my specialty, not so much Ireland, although I know that the government in Ireland have put in around £72 million, I think it is, with an expectation of about 100 million in return.
Is that the arts in general? No, that's not just...
That's for this specific comedian, £14,000 a year.
Wow.
Just under £15,000 a year for about 2,000 artists across 4 years. So in the UK, what's happening is... comedy is not an art form with Arts Council. Comedy is not integrated into NHS policy. There's not a single person on the Creative Industry Council. And all of that means downstream that no money is going into the comedy industry specifically. Now, during the Culture Relief Fund during COVID, it wasn't until much later on during COVID that the comedy industry actually was awarded any funding, and it was only 3.8 million out of the entire 1.9 billion that was put into the creative industries. So from that, only like 23 or so businesses received funding, and all of these businesses, it's not about making, I think, the comedy club owners wealthy. They all have staff, like bar staff, security staff, management managers, etc. So a lot of them have huge overheads. And actually, I don't know the specific cases, but I think they'd argue that it just helped them, keep the lights on after COVID. Now, in terms of comedians, you're right. A lot of that didn't flow down to the comedians. And the problem with the whole ecosystem of comedy is we need to transform a dysfunctional industry. It generates billions of revenue for the UK. It generates millions in taxes. None of that's been reinvested back to the sector. Now, if you were to compare, our studies show that in the last 25 years, comedy has specifically and directly received £14.4 million. And by comparison, if you look at, for example, the ENO, the English National Opera, that's happening annually. So they've probably in that same period maybe had £300 million or more. So those artists are able to get to collaborate more, and they are able to, maybe have better environments that they can collaborate in and work in. But what's happening in comedy is that there's no funding, and not only that, there's no tax breaks. So just a few weeks ago, there was a new rates relief put in for pubs and live music venues, and we are fighting like hell to try and get comedy clubs included in that. But what the government are currently saying is that the comedy clubs need to go to their local council to see how they can sort that out. It's not enough.
That is a good point in terms of relief for comedy clubs as well, if pubs are included.
They should include opera, obviously. That's the point, right?
But most comics start within the sort of pub environment. You're doing these gigs for free. You're driving all around the country.
I mean, the problem really, as you know, we both know, that comics' fees on the circuit have not gone up since about 2008, and inflation has. So I know that financially I'm having a real struggle right now, and I work all the time. And I have friends who I thought were doing very well, and they are, and they have day jobs. And I think the money could be, you're right, it could be leaked down to the performers. That would be great. It would be good if it was spread evenly. I know some of the clubs are not becoming millionaires off comedy either.
Everyone's really struggling. So, for example,
not everyone.
The VAT
a couple of people I know are doing very well, but yeah, everyone else is, yeah.
The majority of clubs in the UK, I think, right now, especially since COVID, have been struggling, is the feedback that we have.
Yeah.
Let's say, you know what, actually, let's talk about that. Why are they... The point is, you put on funny comedians and hopefully the audiences turn up. That's the risk. It's not a huge amount of risk to start a new business, certainly in a pub. I've run comedy nights. Some people might say the reason why some of these comedy clubs are suffering is because they're putting on some rubbish comics.
Okay.
There is that argument out there.
They don't say that about you, do they?
Well, no, because I'm super funny, but...
Genius. No, but I think that it's true. I think that the clubs, don't see the need to pay comics sometimes because there's so many they're willing to do it for free or for less than. And I don't think they... honestly, sometimes I feel as though when I'm performing, the importance of what's going on stage is not as important to everyone in the room, other than the audience, to what's going on off. And I think the focus should be put on what's going on stage, but it sounds like the opera is doing that. But I think a lot of people don't see stand-up comedy as a skill, not like they do opera singing or ballet dancing, because we didn't get a university degree.
It's not just about that. The whole art of stand-up is to make it look like you're just a person chatting.
Yes.
So, and there's another element here, which is about going back to the COVID funding. A lot of that money was tied into these clubs putting on a diverse group of comics, not the best comics. And I'm thinking about somewhere like the Comedy Store. The whole place about the Comedy Store it was like the place where you had to be the best comic. Didn't matter whether you're male, female, white, trans, whatever it was, you had to be a great comic. Suddenly they had a remit, which is you have to put on a certain number of comedians of these different types. And frankly, that's not to say that there aren't really funny comics within those different parameters, but when you enforce it like that, the standard, unfortunately, did drop. And you could argue then that it took a year or two where the standard would, the number of audience members. What would stop, with government in sort of invested money in comedians, what's going to stop them from demanding that that we have a quota system, or that comedians who talk about trans stuff shouldn't get any money, for example, or joke about anything? There's an issue there, isn't there?
Islamophobia, that law that they're trying to pass, they could kind of cram that down our throats a little bit.
What I'm saying is, I'm not going to get any of this money, and I'm very concerned.
You're doing well. Look at this beautiful office. I think you're asking a really complex question, actually. Because are you talking about grassroots? Are you talking about the top circuit comedians? Are you talking about people at the top, you know...
Well, the people at the top don't need the money, arguably, but certainly who's going to dish this money and how are they going to allocate it? And if someone then gets accused of a hate crime, because they're doing a joke about Jews, even, you know, but what's going to stop that money, you know, being, like, denied to people who are talking about controversial topics?
I think that, look, yeah, I think everyone in comedy is concerned. The reason comedy has not been invested in, and this is not a current government thing. We're talking over almost 3 decades of no funding since like arts funding became quite a big thing. Part of the problem for comedy is that there's intergenerational wealth in a lot of the art sectors. So you think about it, people want to have their name, you know, on the Royal Opera House wall or a museum wall. No one wants to invest in the local comedy club. You know, even though it's like the lifeblood of, you know, of the UK. I mean, if you think about comedy in terms of resilience and what it does for resilience for Brits and also people abroad and, you know, the morale, etc., you know, it's amazing. It's such an incredible industry. There's so many healthcare benefits, both for, you know, talent and the people around them, as well as audiences. If you, I mean, just on the point you've just made, so in the last week, the UK Games Fund has been awarded £28 million. I mean, the UK government isn't then telling them what games to make. OK, don't put that rifle in there, don't do this, don't do that. So that's not happening with gaming. If you look at, there was a new fund put out this week of $125 million to 130, it's the first fund, it's the first allocation to 130 venues across the UK towards like restoring, you know, the physical building itself. I might add, not a single comedy-specific venue was in that entire list, so comedy again missed out. But those venues, for example, if you look at even the opera, you know, I was about to say the Opera House. I'm not in Australia, am I? But they've got shows, for example, Romeo and Juliet, where there's like suicide ideation and all sorts of stuff going on. So I think comedy needs to be confident in itself that we can go for funding and that there's a fair way we can look at getting that allocated. And so we're looking into how we could do that.
It's because we don't unionize comics and comedy clubs.
And that's
we don't go at them in a full force. That's what they need, like a whole group of people coming in to pressure them.
I think the one thing we can definitely agree is that comedy doesn't get possibly the respect it deserves as an art form. And I will say, I saw your set at Comedy Unleashed this week, and it was spectacular.
Oh, thank you. There's a Jewish joke in there too.
Yeah, I know, and I was greatly offended.
You're doing really well.
Big round of applause, please, Louisa. Why are feminists so very terrified of women's freedom? See you in 2 minutes.
The weather is set to remain mostly dry across the Mediterranean over the next few days, just 1 or 2 isolated showers in the north. And across Iberia in particular, it's set to turn increasingly hot, so by Monday afternoon we could see temperatures in the low 30s Celsius. The weather is set to remain mostly dry across the Mediterranean over the next few days, just 1 or 2 isolated showers in the north. And across Iberia in particular, it's set to turn increasingly hot, so by Monday afternoon we could see temperatures in the low 30s Celsius inland. Just 1 or 2 isolated showers across northern parts of Italy, the Balkans in particular, and also inland parts of Greece. But coastal regions of Greece and Turkey much drier than of late, and there'll be spells of pleasantly warm sunshine over the next few days too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This week should be mostly dry, feeling rather warm at times too in the far south and west, but along eastern areas a bit cooler and cloudier. For the time being though, today there's actually been quite a lot of warm sunshine out there. A few showers in the far northeast shown by this frontal system just drifting down into the North Sea, and this theme will continue through the overnight period. It's likely we'll see some coastal showers around any North Sea coast, just starting to clip into East Anglia as well, and this likely merging into longer spells of rain across the far northeast of Scotland through the early hours of the morning. But otherwise it's mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. That means temperatures will soon be dipping away. It's likely we'll see lows of around freezing with a patchy frost in places. Now, first thing on Monday, rather unsettled across the far north and northeast of Scotland. Some spells of rain here, but elsewhere across Scotland it should be mostly dry with some brighter spells. Quite a dry and bright start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but chilly with a rural frost, and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales. But there's a possibility we could see some very shallow mist and fog patches, these clearing relatively quickly through the course of the morning. And a mostly dry and bright start for many areas, though cloud will start to soon bubble up into the afternoon, and this will eventually be thick enough to produce some showers, though it should remain mostly dry across the far south. Northern Ireland should be mostly dry too, with some sunny spells, and it's likely we'll see continuous spells of rain across Scotland. Mostly light winds and temperatures a touch cooler, though highs still reaching around 14 to 15 degrees Celsius in the south. Now on Tuesday there could be some showery outbreaks to start, and we'll start to see quite a keen easterly breeze. That's going to make things feel a little bit chillier on Tuesday, but by the afternoon once again it should be mostly dry, plenty of sunny spells, just perhaps not feeling quite as warm as it has done over the weekend. And into next week, high pressure dominating, so more sunny spells to come and feeling rather warm from Wednesday onwards.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB loyalty points are here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB loyalty points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. It's the book with an evocative title that is sure to get the right people talking. Zoe Strimpel's exploration of how money, sex and power set women free, in which she offers a much-needed dose of realism as she examines the myths which submerge women in narratives of victimhood and fragility, is out, and I am thrilled to say that Zoe joins me now. Zoe, welcome to the show. I wanted you to come on the show before because, but in the end you ended up coming in last month because you were at this art exhibition and seeing this, what we would say as Jews, some sort of incredibly anti-Semitic drawings and pictures. The story has continued onwards. Not least that the woman who was complaining about it was being investigated, or Kent police were looking into investigating her, which is made. Of course, now we're seeing a week of synagogues being firebombed. Fortunately, no one has been killed, but do you draw parallels or connections between the hate that we're seeing and these attacks on the Jewish community?
Yeah, so I think what happened in Margate was that I just walked off the street into an art gallery and was confronted with a sort of spewing cesspit of Nazi fever dream imagination about how, the Israelis and the Jews. And my question was, how are we in a society where you can be visited by the police for misgendering someone, but you can also just walk off the street into what struck me as clear incitement to violence, because Jews were being depicted as beneath humanity, which ergo means why should they deserve the protection of, the land, the police or anything. And so it was, what it did, the reason it lit a kind of spark is that it, just showed this horrendous blind spot, would be a generous way of putting it, where Jews are concerned. And then, the ramifications that has on the wider society in a very urgent way was then shown immediately afterwards, like 2 days later when the ambulances in Golders Green were blown up. We're seeing the firebombing go on. So I think if you have, what some people call a permission structure for violence, which the art that I saw in Margate, the fact that it could happily go ahead and be promoted by Thanet Council, then you can't be surprised when you start seeing actual violence. So there are times when metaphorical violence and visual violence becomes real violence. And I'm not saying that caused that. Clearly, there are separate incidents. But it's about the ideas swarming around the culture. The connection, I now want to pivot quite quickly to the topic of the night, which is my book, which is also has been very controversial in terms of the way it's been received. I would argue that what I've actually written in the book is not controversial, and any one of you here could read it without blushing and might find it interesting. The cover is, they have to shift copies, so they made the cover like that. But I find that as someone who speaks out against anti-Semitism and is a proud and a public Zionist, who's also then gone on to write a book that tries to offer something a lot closer to reality, truth, positivity, creativity than these artificial, in my view, often narratives of doom and gloom, fear and loathing and all that. I've ended up on the receiving end of a lot of fury, rage and denigration. And so I would say there is something of a connection, perhaps, between being you don't even have to be as Zionist as I am, but seeing the kinds of being in a society that allows for the kind of exhibition that I walked into in Margate, on one hand, and being in one that fosters these kind of everything is terrible narratives on the other hand.
Just to explain to people who haven't obviously read the book or heard about it, you use an analogy of these two aliens arriving, and essentially they would argue that the people, there's a sort of doom and gloom about the status of women or what's going on.
You would think it's the worst time in history to be a woman when it's actually the best, and I'm talking about in Britain. And I suppose and I'll come to the end of this somewhat, maybe obscure point. But if you're a Zionist, you believe in autonomy for the Jewish people as well as for everyone else, right? Jews are included in the right to self-determination. And what I try to say in my book is that women, if you're, if you've got your ideas straight, also should have self-determination. And that means that, like men, women may also want to better their lives through traditional things to do with wanting success or power or whatever. And so there is a bit of I think there's a bit of an overlap, funnily enough. And it feels interesting to me that I managed to enrage people across the board, whether it's about the Jews or whether it's about women, and I'm trying to still work out what the connection is.
Well, it seems like because feminists would say, we need more women's rights, more women's rights. You would argue, well, these rights have been achieved now. That's not to say that women have that there isn't misogyny still out there. There aren't bad things out there, rape, but the fact is, in law, there is now equality. This is the best time, arguably, to be a woman. At the same time, you have this kind of counter movement of the trad femmes, where they're sort of saying, actually, don't have sex for pleasure or outside of marriage. And there seems to be these two counterpoints against each other, and you're very much just going, well, actually, we've got it good, and we have the ability to make life as we wish. Is that right?
Yeah. So so I do not like orthodoxies. I don't like being expected to toe any party line, and therefore, when I see that I'm seeing stupid, bad ideas that are holding everyone back from the left and the right, then I say so. And so this book was the sort of sense that, hang on, what's happening to the horizon for women, for instance, that I was born in 1982, and I think it was quite a special moment, actually, the 80s and 90s, when I don't recall anyone telling us that we were inherently weaker or about to be jumped upon and, everything was going to be...
Or that you were men.
Terrible. Or that we were men. Thank God we didn't have that either. And so I kind of just suddenly thought, well, hang on, the left has done some valuable things in terms of, things to do with women. But now it's all just, you think, to have a female body is just to be a kind of walking misery guts of pain, and the health system is against you, and if you're not dealing with endometriosis, you're dealing with infertility. And these are all very real things. I'm not saying they aren't, but taken all together, motherhood is terrible. Everything's terrible. And then because negativity and victimhood is one of the main ways the left kind of explores its ideas. But I think it's got gone way too far. It's distorted the picture massively on the left.
And this book
on the
is
right,
a balance of that.
Yeah, so, right, sorry.
No, I was going to say, read the book, is what I was just going to say.
And the trad right thing is too far the other way. And do I have time for one more comment?
Yes.
Well, basically, I know you've been talking about the trans thing a lot, and I think it's relevant in the sense that people rightly have felt, that things went too far. It was argued that biology is nothing. And therefore, you say that microphone says it's a woman, whatever. But I think you can go too far and say biology is everything. And I really don't think that's helpful either. So it's a plea for...
But also a plea for us to go to a break.
A plea for Zoe to be quiet. Yeah.
But I highly recommend the book.
Was that 8 minutes?
Good. I know. But you spoke a lot, which is very impressive. You've got a lot in there. There's absolutely more in the book. Please check it out. Zoe Strimpel. Next on Free Speech Nation, we're going to have some comedians answering some crazy culture conundrums. But big round of applause for Zoe Strimpel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
Do you think we can allow...
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in...
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My comedian guest this evening is Jonathan Cogan. Well, let's get our first question from Julia Long, the famous Julia Long. They were the Colombian gay men. Were very happy to see you yesterday at the LGB.
Okay, let me ask my question, Judge. We'll overrun again. So, will idioms make sick people worse?
Will idioms make sick people worse? And I hope that you don't get cancelled from your separatist buddies for asking that question. An NHS trust has instructed its doctors and nurses not to say popular idioms such as "it's raining cats and dogs" and "the early bird catches the worm" to avoid offending foreign patients who might misinterpret them. And if that wasn't enough, the title chairman has also been exchanged for chairperson and mankind for humankind. It's all part of the guidance to foster an inclusive environment. Well, Scott, it's raining cats and dogs. I know to American brain that must seem terrible.
No, I don't. What? I don't. This is what they're spending their time on. Seriously,
yes, they spent, I believe, £100,000 at this particular trust on the usual DEI stuff, and those people have something to do, which is to say, don't say cats and dogs.
Right. I remember last time I was in the hospital, I had pneumonia that went septic, and I wasn't worried about any of that stuff. I just wanted to live. So I think most people feel that way. I don't think anyone's worried about idioms.
Yeah, well, this is it, Jonathan. There is an hypocrisy here where you've got them also pushing, not this particular trust, but other trusts going sort of, oh, to be inclusive, you have to say Zizir and Zaid Zem and all of that stuff.
Right.
That, I'm surely someone who's visiting from a different country would be very confused.
Very confused. I mean, they've got crazy grammar abroad, so who knows what they think.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think the phrase "raining cats and dogs" is actually offensive because quite a few of these cultures actually eats cats and dogs, and to think of that food on the floor is a real horrible image for them.
If you've had any hospital food, actually, people will be like, please give me some cats and dogs.
I've eaten a few dogs in my time.
Fair enough. Well, look, our next question is from Anton.
Should homeless people suffer from virtual signaling?
Yes, should homeless people suffer from virtue signalling? So this is the homeless charity Centrepoint has said it will cut ties with Sharon Osbourne after she publicly backed a Tommy Robinson rally. Commenting on an Instagram post about the Unite the Kingdom rally, Osbourne said she'd see you at the march. Centrepoint swiftly responded, stating this sort of event does not align with our values. Charity is now taking steps to distance itself from its celebrity ambassador. Now, my understanding is that she helped raise millions for this very worthwhile charity.
Yes, but she said the wrong thing, so get rid of her. That's how it works, Josh. Come on, we know that by now. I've heard so many smears and lies about Sharon Osbourne. I saw one they said that she'd had plastic surgery. Nonsense. Nonsense. I will not hear it.
Yeah.
Well, this, I mean, surely the charity has it's meant to help homeless people, and she's going to help use her fame to bring them money.
Don't you mean unhoused people?
Oh, yes.
Hello,
yes.
pronouns. I think, doesn't she have like 80 houses, 79 of which she could donate if she really cared? I think the problem actually is that she looks like she's been kicked in the face by a horse, but also...
I think she looks wonderful.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Great. No, I think she's lost too much weight. I'm afraid for her. But also, I don't understand why people are so concerned about all this stuff now that has nothing to do with the actual thing. I mean, apparently... it's because she was associated with Tommy Robinson in that march, right?
Well, she's saying that she's going to go to this march.
And he's considered far right. Is that correct?
He's considered far right.
You guys have no idea what far right is in this country. I swear to God, no. He's a bit chatty, a bit kicky. I don't know. He stabbed a couple of people, whatever. In the U.S.,
he hasn't done any of that.
No,
stuff.
I know he hasn't.
This is the charity is very much like this is far right. A lot of people say no, he's not far right.
In the U.S., if they'll shoot you if you have pronouns in your Facebook profile, rightfully so. I mean, in California they'll do it as well, but the bullets are vegan.
Well, you could argue it is quite seismic, a celebrity of her status. She's known around the world, really. For her to be back in this march...
Would you say the Overton window is shifted?
I would say it has massively shifted, yes. Well, look, a spokesperson for the charity has said the following: Centrepoint has a proud history of supporting young people, whatever their background, ethnicity and religion. If we want young people to thrive in this country, then we need to ensure our society continues to allow them to live without fear and to be able to access the opportunities. They need to start education or work, leave homelessness behind. Sharon Osbourne has also been approached for comment, but after what Scott said, I don't think she's going to get back to us.
I liked her when she was fat, right? Kogi, nothing personal.
Right.
I did.
And just before we move on the 15th of February 2026, comments were made by a guest on Free Speech Nation about Akila Ahmed, a member of the government's working group on Islamophobia. We are happy to clarify Ms. Ahmed's position on those comments. She wishes to make absolutely clear, and we accept, that there is no question of her holding the view that it is Islamophobic and racist as a matter of principle to discuss grooming gangs, including issues pertaining to the faith, ethnicity and heritage of those who are involved in such appalling criminal acts. Ms. Ahmed fully supports a national debate around issues of child sexual abuse and child sexual exploitation, including an open and frank conversation where it is conducted in good faith of any trends and associations as to the ethnic and religious background of perpetrators. We apologise for any impression that this has conveyed to the contrary. That's the end of the first hour on Free Speech Nation. Don't go away. There's lots more to come to you now at 9 o'clock, including Girl Guys...
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This week should be mostly dry, feeling rather warm at times too in the far south and west, but along eastern areas a bit cooler and cloudier. For the time being though, today there's actually been quite a lot of warm sunshine out there. A few showers in the far northeast shown by this frontal system just drifting down into the North Sea, and this theme will continue through the overnight period. It's likely we'll see some coastal showers around any North Sea coast, just starting to clip into East Anglia as well, and this likely merging into longer spells of rain across the far northeast of Scotland through the early hours of the morning. But otherwise it's mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. That means temperatures will soon be dipping away. It's likely we'll see lows of around freezing with a patchy frost in places. Now, first thing on Monday, rather unsettled across the far north and northeast of Scotland. Some spells of rain here, but elsewhere across Scotland it should be mostly dry with some brighter spells. Quite a dry and bright start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but chilly with a rural frost, and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales. But there's a possibility we could see some very shallow mist and fog patches, these clearing relatively quickly through the course of the morning. And a mostly dry and bright start for many areas, though cloud will start to soon bubble up into the afternoon, and this will eventually be thick enough to produce some showers, though it should remain mostly dry across the far south. Northern Ireland should be mostly dry too, with some sunny spells, and it's likely we'll see continuous spells of rain across Scotland. Mostly light winds and temperatures a touch cooler, though highs still reaching around 14 to 15 degrees Celsius in the south. Now on Tuesday there could be some showery outbreaks to start, and we'll start to see quite a keen easterly breeze. That's going to make things feel a little bit chillier on Tuesday, but by the afternoon once again it should be mostly dry, plenty of sunny spells, just perhaps not feeling quite as warm as it has done over the weekend. And into next week, high pressure dominating, so more sunny spells to come and feeling rather warm from Wednesday onwards.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather.
There's just 2 weeks remaining to grab your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. Just in time for summer, you could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. There's plenty more still to come this week. So how's this for free speech? Activists disrupt a theatre reading of a play about LGBTQ+ Palestinians seeking refuge in Israel. A Girl Guide group's at risk of disappearing. Another group in Liverpool has switched to a Scouts amid a row over the organisation's transgender policy. Plus, we'll be speaking to the director of a new documentary, Speechless, which delves into the heart of the cultural crisis across US universities. But first, we're going to get a news update from Lewis Mackenzie.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Your 8 o'clock headlines from the GB newsroom. Iran has rejected a second round of talks with the US as President Donald Trump issues a new threat to strike Iran, saying, "No more Mr. Nice Guy." Shipping in the Strait of Hormuz has again ground to a halt after Iran reversed the brief reopening yesterday. Iran's Revolutionary Guard say the vital shipping lane will remain closed until the US lifts its blockade on Iranian ports. But Donald Trump insists that won't happen until Tehran agrees to a deal. Former chair of the Defence Select Committee, Tobias Ellwood, spoke to GB News.
If I'd have had one objective for this war of choice, I would have said that Iran must move forward, transition into a place where there's no longer a religious leader, a theocratic dictator in charge of a country in the 21st century. But that was never an objective. So we're still left with this IGC, which is able to use its weapon systems, what's called, a mosquito fleet, which is a nice summary, jet skis, over-the-shoulder missile systems and so forth, fast boats to cause the havoc right across the straits. And that's very difficult for even the might of the American military to be able to actually push back on.
The Prime Minister is being accused of a cover-up over the appointment of Lord Peter Mandelson as the UK ambassador to the US. Sir Keir Starmer has said neither he or any ministers knew Lord Mandelson failed security vetting prior to him taking up the job. But he's now facing mounting pressure to publish all the evidence of the process after reports officials within the Foreign Office warned against the move over concerns over Mandelson's links to China and Jeffrey Epstein. 8 children between the ages of 1 and 14 have been killed in a mass shooting in Louisiana. Local police say they were killed in what they're calling a domestic disturbance at around 6 a.m. local time. Police Chief Wayne Smith confirmed the gunman was shot by police during a vehicle chase and some of the children shot were related to the suspect. Mr. Smith said the crime scene extended across 3 separate locations, adding, "This is an extensive scene unlike anything most of us have ever seen." We'll of course bring you more as we have it here on GB News. The Metropolitan Police say it's investigating a possible link to Iranian proxies after a campaign targeting Londoners, especially the Jewish community. It comes as counter-terror police lead another investigation into an attempted arson attack reported at a northwest London synagogue after several similar incidents in the area in recent weeks. London's Counter-Terrorism Policing Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Vicky Evans, spoke earlier.
I've spoken previously about the Iranian regime's use of criminal proxies, and we're considering whether this tactic is being used here in London. This is recruiting violence as a service, and the people who conduct that violence often have little or no allegiance to the cause and are taking...
The Community Security Trust says the incident at Kenton United Synagogue in Harrow last night caused minor internal smoke damage, but no injuries have been reported. The Prime Minister says he's appalled by the incident, which follows attacks on the Jewish community in Finchley, Golders Green and Hendon earlier this month. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in an hour's time.
Take the GB News family with you on any device.
As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie, a London-based theatre group where the left startled, actually, by a group of pro-Palestine activists disrupting a reading of a play about LGBT Palestinians seeking refuge in Israel. Sharif, written by Israeli journalist and playwright Tomer Aldubi, explores the plight of LGBT Palestinians who face persecution in Gaza and fled to Israel for a better life. However, at a rehearsed reading at the King's Head Theatre, various activists delivered pre-written statements viciously attacking Tomer, with attendees saying the event turned into an outpouring of hateful rhetoric against Israel. Well, the writer of Sharif and the founder of Fighting Online Anti-Semitism, Tomer Aldubi, joins me now. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much. There's a strange collusion. I was at a protest last week where you had trans activists chanting for Palestine, and knowing what I know about what goes on, certainly in Gaza, and the homophobia of organisations like Hamas, if they actually had been in Gaza, they'd be murdered. Yet they're chanting for free, and it sounds like this is what kind of happened. Your play. Well, tell us about this play first of all.
So I started researching about this topic about 6 years ago when I met a few Palestinians in Israel that escaped from the West Bank. In Israel, they get asylum seeker for some temporal time. They can stay, work legally, and as basically as any other refugee in any other country. However, because they're Palestinians, they need eventually to leave to another country. And today there are Palestinians I'm in touch with that left Israel to Canada and Australia mostly. Some of them also go to Ireland. And the play shows the challenges of both the Israeli society and racism they might get, and also the fact that eventually they had to flee from the West Bank because there was no other place for them to stay, and Israel was the best place for them to stay as long as they want to still continue and save their lives until they move to another country.
Okay, and so what happened on this event? You read the play, and then it sounds like there was a Q&A session afterwards, and that's where things turned a little bit.
So we had 2 performances in London and a few in the US and in Israel as well. We had one at the JW3, which was a Jewish center and a mixed audience, and then one at the King's Head. And I'm very grateful for both venues to host this show, because other theaters refused politely to host this show. And we had Palestinian actors on stage and Arabs and Jewish actors as well. So it was a great combination of an amazing British director and the local British society.
And you're talking about a Palestinian story, right?
It is a Palestinian story, and it was written with dramaturg Palestinians and based on true stories and interviews that I've been doing since 2020 already. And we adapted a new version because of the war in Gaza, so it's really up to date. I'm doing this because this is a voice it's very important for other people to know about. And I haven't found yet one Palestinian that can talk about this on theatre live. I do have the privilege to do so. That's why we collaborate with Palestinians and other Arabs and Israelis.
So what's the problem then? Why are people standing up and reading speeches to you?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I understood back then that the very extreme pro-Palestine, eventually they would not be satisfied as long as there are Israelis on stage or Israel in the production or Israelis at all in some places. That's why I understood. Because we were afraid that something might happen. And luckily, well, they were nice enough, I can say, to let us finish the show, and we got amazing feedback from the audience. And then we have a Q&A because we want to share more information with the audience about this topic. But the 3 questions that they had, there were 3 protesters. All of them came very prepared with quoting myself and quoting me from different and they came very prepared with questions they wanted to ask, and they basically read from their cell phones. So they did not say anything about the play at all. They just wanted to ask me about things that are not related, and basically ask me why I'm doing this kind of show if I'm an Israeli. They didn't really pay attention to the
So that was the focus, not on Israel saving the lives of these gay Palestinians, but the fact that you as an Israeli are in a public space.
Yes.
I know that there's a sort of common criticism, which is that Israel is like pinkwashing, is I believe the phrase here, that because in Israel you have the right to be gay and safe, and it's the safest place to be gay in the entire Middle East, that when Israelis point that out, suddenly that's seen as somehow it's a bad thing, or it's fake, or it's not real. So there was people who were also there who said that the atmosphere turned very sour, though.
Yes, because they started with being polite and asking questions, and then when we were about to leave and the theatre had to be closed, some of them started shouting, and they accused us of pinkwashing and using this for Israel propaganda. And they said many things that are related to Free Palestine and other things that are not about the play. And they didn't want to leave. And we had to leave, but they didn't want to leave. And then the audience started talking with them as well. So it was a big, I would say, dispute between all of them. And again, they didn't come to either support the show or at least listen to what was on stage.
Well, this is going to be quite a stupid question. I don't suppose any of them happened to criticise Hamas for killing gay Palestinians, did they?
Yeah.
No?
No, they don't.
Really? I'm
Yes,
so surprised. They didn't criticise the homophobia within the Islamist circles, then? That's a shock.
They blame everything in Israel. And then I asked the following question: why there are no LGBT rights in any other Arab countries or most of countries in Africa? There is no Israelis, no Jews, there is nothing to stop them, including Senegal from recent news that now even made it harder to be gay. So in Lebanon, Egypt, Jordan, all of the surrounding countries, it's undercover, especially in the West Bank. The West Bank, their privilege is that they have more liberal life since before the war, at least. There were many parties where they went to in Tel Aviv, and I was in one of them, Palestinian, Arabs, Israelis in a gay party in Tel Aviv. They came from the West Bank. And the fact is that the Supreme Court in Israel and the government also acknowledged the fact that those Palestinians need to be secure somewhere, and they get the rights to stay in Israel. And we're talking only about a few dozens. And they get application from the IDF, and they can work legally, etc. This is something that is being done, and eventually saving some of those lives.
Which goes against the narrative, of course, that Israel wants to kill all Palestinians and create a genocide, yet strangely are providing sanctuary to gay men. I imagine it's mostly gay men?
It's mostly gay men. We don't really hear about lesbian and transgender, which usually have difficult life. For gay, for men, it's easier to move and work legally and also hide once they need to hide. And another question that was asked is, one of the protests asked me if I cared about Palestinian in general or just about gay Palestinians. And I was like, I mean, I don't know if someone is gay or not. Basically, they send me a message on Facebook or on Instagram. They want some help. So if they're gays and they want my help and I can assist with other charity Israeli organization. But those questions, basically, they are not really looking, the extreme people, they're not looking to have a brave collaboration as we had, produced with an American theater, the Dirty Laundry Theater, and directed by a British director. We had a very brave production that I hope other theaters would like to have as well. And I hope that theaters in London would not be afraid of this. Because also the King said before the show, they sent us an email because they got questions concerning about the show from audience or maybe from those people. So I'm quite positive in the future, once we're going to do the full production in London, many theaters would refuse. And I'm looking for one.
Well, we've seen the erasure of Jews, let alone Israelis, but also just British Jewish comedians had their shows cancelled in Edinburgh last year. So, but I'm wondering if doing a show about saving gay Palestinians, if that's like the kryptonite to this. I mean, but still, they've somehow still managed to object. You also, in your spare time as well, or as a job, you also run a charity or an organisation that helps deal with online anti-Semitism. You're an Israeli, you're living in London. We've had a pretty terrible week, frankly, where it's sort of every time I turn on my phone or I see some, the synagogue that I live down the road on this week was attacked. I wake up this morning, another synagogue had a sort of fire, was firebombed. Do you see this correlation between this increase of online rhetoric and now we're seeing the actual physical assault on Jewish community?
Yes, 100%. This is exactly what we do. And the charity organization is established both in Israel and Europe. It's fighting online anti-Semitism, and we train volunteers from many different countries worldwide, about 1,000 volunteers a year, to look for online content that eventually can lead to terror attacks. We just found recently in Michigan a group that was about to commit a terror attack on the first night of Passover, 1st of April, a few weeks ago, and it was sent then to the FBI, and they discovered it was a much larger group than just in Michigan. So this is exactly what we want to do also in London, because I haven't found yet the organization here that would like to collaborate and do so. We're going to do it independently, because we need more people looking for the content online. The police is simply not enough. We need more people looking for content online.
As this problem grows. I mean, look, this is Free Speech Nation. If people want to criticise Israel, people even want to be arguably hateful towards Jews. That's one thing. When we're talking about direct incitement, and as it seems like in this case, actually uncovering a potential terrorist incident, that's a whole other thing. That's where the free speech goes out the window. That's not applicable anymore.
Exactly. As the play Sharif is not about yes or no, or right or wrong. It's about showing complexity and about showing complicated topics. This is exactly what we do when we fight anti-Semitism. Free speech, there is no problem with free speech. But if someone says, I want to kill all Jews, or someone says a very popular hashtag, Hitler was right, or 6 million was not enough, then it becomes very problematic, especially when it's online or in the street, because it leads to other people's minds, it goes to other people, and then they go to synagogues, or at least when they see...
It's interesting, because I've had a sort of slightly different journey where I would have agreed with that, but the reality, but also now saying something like that, as abhorrent as I would find it, I would say that there isn't evidence to say that it would directly incite that. But of course, when we are seeing it on a scale that we are seeing, it's not a coincidence that you see this increase online and then we see it in the real world. But in terms of making that direct connection, I would say we're still not necessarily there. Still, it's quite scary. But anyway, good luck with your play. Hopefully you will send me an invite.
I will.
When you're next to it. Big round of applause, please. So next on Free Speech Nation, Girl Guiding Units are defecting to the Scouts so the boys can still be included. See you in 2 minutes.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
There is a litter-picking group that has set up an ambitious aim of collecting 1 million bags of litter from streets, parks and public spaces.
They should start in Birmingham, shouldn't they? Mark Rowlands set up the initiative back in 2024, and it has since grown into a grassroots movement encouraging people to get outdoors, get active and improve their communities by collecting litter, and it has spread all over the world.
Yeah, and he joins us now. It's great to see you, Mark. Heck, I didn't know there was 1 million bags of litter to pick up. It's a big goal.
Do you know what, Stephen? Good morning, and good morning, Anne.
Morning.
You know, it's actually a small goal, right?
Oh,
I
that's depressing.
It is depressing, but do you know what? I think for me, it's all about looking at the positive, right? Because anyone can get out there, pick up a bag, and make your community look better.
How do they do it then? How do they join in?
So there's two ways. I first created this on the free fitness app Strava. And the first bag I collected was from Everest Base Camp. And I came up with the idea, which was to actually, how can we encourage more people to get outdoors, get active, you know, good for your health, but give back to your community at the same time. And that's where the idea for A Million Bags started. So people can join. You just download the free fitness app Strava, go into clubs, search 1 Million Bags and join us there.
Right, can I ask, and it might sound a stupid question in a way, but how do you pick up litter safely?
It's important that, you know, you're wearing gloves, you don't pick up dirty objects, sharp objects. You know, it's important that people kind of stay safe and just use common sense, really.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. A girl guiding group has transitioned into the Scouts following tensions with the organisation over their transgender policy. The former 280th Liverpool Rangers unit has now been re-established as the 280th Achilles Scout Group, officially reopening back in January. Girl Guiding said in December 2025 that it would limit membership to biological girls, aka girls, in response to a ruling last April by the Supreme Court which clarified that sex and equality law refers to shock biological sex. Well, joining me now to discuss this is the journalist Janet Murray. Welcome to the show, Janet.
Hello again.
This is the story that keeps on giving. When they said that girls can't be boys or boys can't be girls, now the Girl Guiding have said, actually, so we're going to join the boys.
Yeah, so just to be clear, this isn't individuals leaving the guides. This is somebody said online it was like the Pied Piper. So this is basically guide leaders taking whole groups, units, and in this case that you mentioned is basically closing the Girl Guide unit and reopening as the Scouts, so that boys can be part. But also they're discussing, there's quite a few of them who are discussing moving to other types of groups and youth groups, but also partnering with pride organisations.
That's who you want to be involved with kids.
Yeah.
That's worked out really well in the past.
It's worked out really well, hasn't it?
Pride Essex.
Yeah, so
Sussex. I always get them mixed up.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you very much.
Yeah, various
Quite
cancers. So behind the scenes, there's quite a few guide leaders who are talking about this, about whether they could just take their whole unit and move them to Scouts or other organisations, or maybe partner up with Pride, and in one case Pride and a Methodist church, and take all of the guides along there. Because they're really keen on keeping the boys in.
I've got a daughter. It's her birthday party today. That's why I might seem a little bit wiped out from a 10-year-old's birthday party. But I've had 2 cups of coffee, jittery, and she's part of the Girl Guides, or she's about to move into the Girl Guides. Kind of the point is to create that space, a safe space for her, where there aren't boys, where she can still have an environment. The boys in her school, that's all fine, but I want her to be able to exist and have fun safely with other girls. Yet there seems to be a movement within the Girl Guiding to not allow that to happen.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, the law states really clearly that a girls' organisation like the Guides, we talked the other week about the Women's Institute as well, because of the Supreme Court ruling. It's really clear now that they need to be single-sex. But you've just got these activists within these organisations who will just not accept it, and they're trying everything. I mean, I came on a few weeks ago and talked about, you know, them wearing their promise badges upside down, them giving whole units of, you know, little tiny brownies and rainbows, pro-trans badges, of creating guides that share information that really is too adult for little kids to be hearing. And the thing about these kinds of activists is that they are very, very determined, and if you block one activity or type of activity, they'll just try something else. So, you know, if we can't get boys back in, I know what we'll do is we'll shut down the unit and we'll start up as something else. And you can't help thinking to yourself, what do parents think about this? And particularly with Rangers groups, because Rangers groups are 14 to 18. This particular group I was talking about, that they're looking to partner with a Pride organisation. I remember when I was 14, and also when my daughter was 14, that's the kind of time when you might kind of back off a little bit and you might not be so involved in what they're doing. If my daughter said to me, yeah, I was at the Guides, but actually me and my mates were now going to go to the Scouts, as a parent, you may not question that, and when they're a bit older, you may well want to give them that autonomy. There they are, you know, going off to a new group that's, you know, a Pride group or a Scouts group that's got boys who identify as girls in, and it's really concerning. What's really concerning for me is that girl guiding seem to be doing nothing about it whatsoever.
They seem quite reluctant about following the law now.
And they weren't reluctant a few years ago when... So I've done a piece in the Sunday Telegraph. This is about my third piece on the Girl Guides, but they weren't reluctant a few years back to expel 2 guide leaders for making negative comments, you know, about this topic in a WhatsApp group of 11 people. But you've got what seems to be these girl guide leaders just like running amok. You know, they were out at the weekend, last weekend, they were protesting all over the country, 7 different locations. They had little kids with them, like really tiny little kids holding up trans, you know, pro-trans signs. And you just wonder, like, what is going on in their safeguarding department? You know, is anybody even speaking to them privately about any of this and saying, look, this is, you know... I shared something actually on X over the weekend where there was a guide leader saying that she was going to do something, I think it was first aid training or something, and she said, yeah, I've got my promise badge upside down, got my gate, that's what they call the Guiders Against trans exclusion, whatever. I've got my other badge on, and is going to kind of represent the guides, but with no thought seemingly about you know, their role and being a role model for children. It just doesn't seem to make any sense.
Well, the thing that, beyond everything that you've just said, is the whole point is that girl guiding was set up to exclude boys. Yes. And the Women's Institute was set up to exclude men. Yet they're so desperate, seemingly, to be able to allow men and boys back into these spaces, which goes against the whole purpose of setting these organisations up in the first place.
Yeah, and girls, you know, it isn't... sometimes it's just about wanting to have a space, and it's the same for men and boys, where you can be with other females, other girls. I'm sure you didn't do this, Josh, but, you know, when I was at school, I was at a girls' school, but then I was at a mixed school beforehand. And the boys sometimes...
They didn't know that.
Yeah, they didn't know that, yeah. But, you know, the boys would tend to talk more than the girls. Sometimes they'd talk over you. I've had that situation as a woman in meetings and things like that. Sometimes...
That's happened to me all the time!
Of course. And sometimes you just want to be in an environment where you're just with other women for a whole variety of reasons, and why shouldn't women and girls have that opportunity?
Well, this is the example that's being set to these young women, that, oh, you have to include boys, that's not allowed. That we talked earlier about the erasure of lesbian spaces.
Yeah.
This is just the erasure of all spaces for women. And by the way, I want to say that there's the men's shed movement, and but then they're sort of like being like having to include women. I think that these spaces are a good thing to have, to have this exclusion.
Well, men and women are ultimately, they're different, aren't they? And sometimes we just need to have those spaces. Sometimes it's about privacy, dignity, comfort, but sometimes it's just because we want to meet together and not have the other sex.
And with the safeguarding elements of it, and teenage girls as well. In particular, this is maybe the last time that they'll get to be in that kind of environment. The idea that to bring in these, boys, essentially, it's a betrayal of why these organisations were set up in the first place. Of course, the Supreme Court ruling, it's been talked about a fair amount, but the frustration there is that the government haven't made it clear. Not that they have to, because the law was the law and it's been clarified. And one of the points that was made over the last week or so is that actually, while we're waiting for the Equality Human Rights Commission's guidance to be implemented by the government, the reality is that actually that's unnecessary because the law has been clarified.
Yeah, it's been clarified, and everybody seems to be saying we're waiting for the EHRC guidance, this kind of like mythical guidance. But actually, Bridget Phillipson, the Equalities Minister, she's on record as saying publicly, don't wait for the guidance, get on with it, the law is clear. But it seems to be, to me, being used as an excuse because people don't want to implement because it's uncomfortable. It might mean having uncomfortable conversations or, you know, maybe walking back things that are in place that shouldn't have been. And it does feel like it's just used as an excuse not to implement.
And this seems to be the latest loophole, is that actually these organisations, to be fair, they have implemented the Supreme Court's clarifications, and then you have members of that organisation, and in this case, entire troops, just go, OK, well, if that's the case, we're just going to leave.
Yeah, or we're going to stay in the organisation, as in the Girl Guides, and we're going to openly defy the law and defy the rules that you've given us, and we're just going to, I don't know, basically stick two fingers up at it, and, you know, it's bad.
Yeah, well, look, a spokesperson for the Scouts told The Telegraph, we have had no change in our policy and continue to welcome young people and adults from a wide range of backgrounds, regardless of gender identity, in line with our values and long-standing approach. There is no formal process for an existing youth group to move into the Scouts. Anyone wishing to join the Scouts, whether as a young person or an adult volunteer, or create a new scouting provision, would need to apply through our usual processes. And Girl Guiding said it recognised the strength of feeling within the organisation following the policy change and was working to support volunteers as it was implemented. Next on Free Speech Nation, our panel of comedians are going to be answering some more questions from our audience. Before we go to break, a big round of applause for Janet Murray. Thank you.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The weather is set to remain mostly dry across the Mediterranean over the next few days, just one or two isolated showers in the north. And across Iberia in particular, it's set to turn increasingly hot. So by Monday afternoon, we could see temperatures in the low 30s Celsius inland. Just one or two isolated showers across northern parts of Italy, the Balkans in particular, and also inland parts of Greece. But coastal regions of Greece and Turkey much drier than of late, and there'll be spells of pleasantly warm sunshine over the next few days too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This week should be mostly dry, feeling rather warm at times too in the far south and west, but along eastern areas a bit cooler and cloudier. For the time being though, today there's actually been quite a lot of warm sunshine out there. A few showers in the far northeast shown by this frontal system just drifting down into the North Sea, and this theme will continue through the overnight period. It's likely we'll see some coastal showers around any North Sea coast, just starting to clip into East Anglia as well, and this likely merging into longer spells of rain across the far northeast of Scotland through the early hours of the morning. But otherwise it's mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. That means temperatures will soon be dipping away. It's likely we'll see lows of around freezing with a patchy frost in places. Now, first thing on Monday, rather unsettled across the far north and northeast of Scotland. Some spells of rain here, but elsewhere across Scotland it should be mostly dry with some brighter spells. Quite a dry and bright start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but chilly with a rural frost, and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales. But there's a possibility we could see some very shallow mist and fog patches, these clearing relatively quickly through the course of the morning. And a mostly dry and bright start for many areas, though cloud will start to soon bubble up into the afternoon, and this will eventually be thick enough to produce some showers, though it should remain mostly dry across the far south. Northern Ireland should be mostly dry too, with some sunny spells, and it's likely we'll see continuous spells of rain across Scotland. Mostly light winds and temperatures a touch cooler, though highs still reaching around 14 to 15 degrees Celsius in the south. Now on Tuesday there could be some showery outbreaks to start, and we'll start to see quite a keen easterly breeze. That's going to make things feel a little bit chillier on Tuesday, but by the afternoon once again it should be mostly dry, plenty of sunny spells, just perhaps not feeling quite as warm as it has done over the weekend. And into next week, high pressure dominating, so more sunny spells to come and feeling rather warm from Wednesday onwards.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. We can get some more questions from our audience, and our first question is from Hugh.
Hi, Josh.
Hey.
Should the RAF be reported to prevent?
Yeah, should the RAF be reported to prevent? This is a really interesting story. An RAF cadet has been suspended after suggesting Islam is the biggest threat to national security. The comment was made during a question and answer session with other cadets when discussing the greatest dangers to British society. That's kind of incredible, Jonathan, that rather than have a discussion about it, and what did he... Is he talking about Islam, he's talking about the ideology, he's talking about Islamists, whatever it is, they're just like, no, don't mention that word!
He went full Basil Fawlty about it. Don't mention the terrorism. Just I think it's. I think that is a sad state of affairs that was shut down so quickly. But I also kind of agree. Like, if Islamic extremism was a threat to the UK, we would have seen examples. Like maybe someone would have firebombed a synagogue or something 3 times this week. I don't know. I just something would have made it more clear, in my opinion. But
Good point. Yes. Where's this evidence?
Yeah.
I wonder what they think. I wonder what they think the biggest threat to national security is. Then, if they don't think it's Islam. What are the other options? What do we have?
Russia?
Yeah. The IRA has lied about every document they've ever signed with the British government. There's that. Who else?
Is that? I think that anybody.
Microplastics?
I was going to ask the audience, but actually I know this lot. Spend the rest of the show apologising.
I wonder if they think Trump is a threat to national security.
Well, Trump is not very happy with the UK, arguably rightly so, one of our greatest, our strongest ally.
Right.
And we have not been there for America, or the world.
We've not been the shoulder to cry. And also, not to make a serious point, but aren't there 40,000 extremists on a watch list in the UK currently? That's my understanding.
No, they're Buddhist extremists.
Oh, beg your pardon. Okay, yeah.
It is, yeah.
They're going to make us one with everything rather than...
I just think it is scary that our National Defence Forces are that defensive when it comes to being able to talk about Islam.
I think the biggest threat is obvious. It's rainbow crosswalks, really, I think.
The rainbow crosswalks, yes. Certainly if you're up, imagine if you're in the RAF, that could be very distracting.
I'd aim right for it if I were them, actually. Take it out.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, then we'll have to cost us more money. An RAF spokesman said, "We are aware of an alleged incident of inappropriate behaviour involving a cadet at RAF Cranwell. An investigation is ongoing. We are unable to comment further." So our next question is from Fahid.
Is it safe for students to make a joke?
Is it now safe for students to make a joke? Well, Royal Holloway University has had to pay compensation to a student who was suspended for hate speech after suggesting a pro-Palestine activist headscarf looked like a tea towel. So this is 20-year-old Brodie Mitchell accused the university of behaving unlawfully and has since been awarded an undisclosed sum as a gesture of goodwill.
They gave him a tea towel, that's what I hear. They gave him a tea towel with, like, you win on it.
Oh, really? Yeah. So, well, Brodie's been on this show.
I met him the other week.
Yeah, he's...
very serious guy, but nice.
Very serious young man, but also very determined. The whole point of this is that someone was saying to him, like, where's your yarmulke? Because, like, you think...
Where's your yarmulke?
He was like, well, you're wearing a tea towel. That was how he responded.
The lamest roast battle ever.
Yeah, but it's an insane story. He's suspended for weeks on end. This is a guy fly. He has to, he's got to pay his university fees.
Of course, it's completely disproportionate. And,
couldn't get on with his studies. He's paying thousands of pounds to this university. I'm glad that this is. We've come to some sort of closure here.
100%.
Have you heard the most insane thing is that this has actually been sent? The police have put a file on this tea towel. Towelgate, and have sent it to the CPS to see if it's a hate crime.
Was it? I hope not.
Well, no, we don't know yet. They haven't come back.
Well, if you haven't paid your membership to the Free Speech Union, today's the day. Sign up.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, look,
I wasn't being sincere.
I think most jokes are not intentionally, but they turn out to be hate crimes. I think that comedy it should be a bit brutal or bitter, angry, make the audience rethink what they're thinking up till. I mean, I think you're meant to change people's minds about the way they perceive everything. And in doing so, I think that's upsetting and disturbing. I don't think people like being challenged. I think that's what comedy is.
Yeah, but this was him being sarky in the real world and sort of...
After being insulted.
After arguably...
How dare you imply I'm Jewish?
Yeah. But I mean, it's a pretty gentle remark, isn't it? I just feel like maybe they're making too much out of very little.
Well, anyway...
I heard Josh saying way more extreme things backstage.
Of course, absolutely.
Which I'll list off now.
Well, look, I'm very happy for him, and I hope that he can continue his studies in peace.
I'm glad he didn't throw in the towel. That's important.
Very good. There we go. As a hate crime. So, can a pub identify... actually, who's the next question? Chris. Chris, do you want to... Oh, no, will you... Yes,
hello. Will the next series of Adolescents be about Substack?
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. So this is... this is all about...
This is the Andrew Tate stuff?
This is the Andrew Tate. So Andrew Tate's on Substack. I believe he's been on Substack for a while, but he's really sort of taken off and is supposedly making quite a lot of money. And I believe the people on Substack don't want to be associated with him. But the whole point is it's a free speech platform where you're meant to be able to write ideas and newsletters. So do you think they doth protest?
Is the idea that he's creating sort of toxicity that young men kind of embrace and then it messes up their minds a little bit? Is that what people are worried about?
That's the idea, but I think it's more that the people who are on Substack are like, I don't want to be next to Andrew Tate on the listings.
Oh, right.
That's the gist of it.
I would. He's probably got a huge following, right? I mean, I would think. It would be good to be not associated with him, but next to him, because at least your name appears next to someone who's doing well. That's about the best I'll probably ever do. So, good for him. Good for who's ever on the list.
If these mediums just close down to their kind of ideological, just cut out any dissent,
right?
Then you have something which is happening on Blue Sky, Blue Sky, is it? Yeah, which I believe has sort of gone into a bit of a death spiral because they would
it's just them eating themselves.
Well, this is it, and that's exactly the tail is eating. Is being eaten by the snake. And it's kind of dying. Numbers are going down. Everybody's getting cancelled, and that's because there's no dissent.
I mean, the thing about free speech is there's always going to be stuff that you don't like, and then that is you just got to accept it if you want a free and liberal society. That's part of it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So anyway, you subscribe, I assume.
He's teaching me how to pimp women. That's my latest thing. No, I'm joking. I knew how to do that from birth. No, I didn't really. It's not funny. I guess.
How's that wedding going on?
She's still in her shipping container on her way. So I made that joke last time.
That's good. Right, next on Free Speech Nation.
Well, don't leave on that. Guys, remember the towel jokes. Remember the good times.
Let's go back to that. Well, but Anton's still with you. We're going to be looking at how freedom of speech has eroded across university campuses in the US and the UK. There's a new documentary. It's incredibly revealing, and I'll see you in 2 minutes.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in, Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages. Because the news is going to happen. So get a head start today. Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And you rightly said, when I was leaving Ghana for United Kingdom, I thought we got Christianity through British being our colonial masters. So I thought, having come to a place that the gospel came from, it would be all godliness. But slowly things are changing. I mean, people can choose to do whatever they want, but the level of impunity, the punity that people act with knowing that you call the authority, they will not help you. And it's like they do it with no ramifications. So what is the need for them to stop attacking the church? And you look around, we say we live in a civil society. We are not against that because we have to serve the people.
Daniel, do you feel that Christianity in Britain has come under more and more attack? Do you feel that it's something has changed? I was looking into this earlier, and hundreds of churches every year are facing vandalism, but we don't hear much from the government about it. We don't hear outrage when we hear of mosques being attacked. We do hear politicians talking about it. We hear the same for synagogues and other religious groups, but not so much for Christianity. Have we forgotten to talk about Christians coming under attack and the Christian faith coming under attack?
Oh, that is the feeling I got, because before I contacted GB News, I had reached out to some of the major outlets, and I do not know whether I have right to mention them, but all my plea were ignored. And some of it was so classic that they had featured an attack on that religion, and then they say, if you have been affected, contact us through this means, and I will do that. Nothing and no one will respond. So definitely I feel Christianity is being subtly marginalized, and there is no intervention whatsoever.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. So Emmy award-winning filmmaker Ric Esther Bienstock has just released a new documentary titled Speechless, which looks at how open inquiry has eroded within the very institutions meant to uphold it, examining the consequences for a democracy when trust in free speech, genuine debate and meaningful dialogue begins to falter. Let's take a peek.
We're asking that there be no restrictions on the content of speech. Yeah, free speech.
There has been a flurry of loud and angry debate about what can be said and what ideas can be expressed.
I don't think that everyone deserves the right to free speech.
And if you try and defend free speech, what kind of sinister opinions are you really arguing for?
I'm now joined by the director of Speechless, Ric Esther Bienstock. Hello, welcome to the show. Ric, this documentary's been a long time coming. I believe it was it about a decade ago?
That is correct. I started around 2015-16. I started thinking about it, and 2017 was the first time I did any filming.
So, and did you realise as you went into the filming that the issue would, because it sort of escalated through the last decade?
Well, it's funny you say that. You're absolutely right. At the time, my kids were almost university age, and I started hearing little stories were coming out of campuses about students wanting safe spaces and microaggressions and cultural appropriation, terms that we're all really familiar with now, but they were new to me then. And students didn't want safe spaces from physical harm. They were more looking at words that harm them. They wanted safe spaces from emotional harm, and that didn't kind of match my university experience. And I wanted to kind of take it seriously and understand what the story was. And that started me on a kind of a 10-year journey, learning that it wasn't kind of silly students at all. There was an ideology behind it. I wanted to get inside the heads of the students and understand why this was happening and what it meant for education.
The interesting thing for me, and I think for some of our viewers watching this documentary, is because this show is about free speech, we're actually quite familiar with a lot of these stories. But you show the other side of it. So you actually interview the DEI officers and you kind of talk about what they were thinking.
Yeah, because I think it's really important to understand where it comes from. A lot of the kind of shutting down of ideas originated in movements that were meant to create more inclusive environments and invite more people into the higher educational tent. And I think it behooves us. I care a lot about not free speech in the legal sense of the word, like what's hate speech. I care about our ability to express ourselves, to be wrong, to mess up and apologize. And what started happening were these kind of movements for inclusivity started hardening into ideology. And it's not so much about allowing hate speech. I mean, yes, we have to have those conversations too. What's the Overton window? What are the parameters for acceptable civil discourse? It's just that people couldn't even make mistakes or even have ideas that were in the mainstream, in the realm of mainstream thought without being vilified. And I think that silenced a lot of professors and a lot of students, and I don't think that's good for higher education. And
well, it's not just silence, they lost their jobs. One of the professors who of evolutionary biology at Harvard stating the very simple fact, and sort of integral certainly to her work, that men and women are different. And that was enough. That's nothing to do with hate speech. But of course, the people would utilize that and say, you're saying that is hate speech. And that's where I guess the crossover happens here.
Well, again, what I agree with you, but I think it's important to understand where it comes from. And now I think that the institutions and the administrations were built to kind of protect students from offense. And so professors, here's the real danger. The danger is that professors and students and administrators are so petrified and so walking on eggshells. Again, not across the board, not in every course, not on every campus, but in many cases, that they just rather not ask the questions, or they change the syllabus to not include books that might offend somebody, because if you don't have tenure, it's not worth losing your job. So what I really wanted to get into is, why is this happening? How is this happening? With the hope of actually, I mean, I don't think a film changes things, but just exploring how we can possibly change, how to start the conversation again. We're in very polarized times now, and it can't continue. The world is on fire. We have to speak across differences because
I think, as you say, it's about how to literally start the conversation again, because there seems to be this intolerance that exists now. I mean, I would argue, even as someone historically on the left, that that's where the intolerance and that's where the inability to have these conversations is actually coming from. It seems to be the left just aren't willing to talk about this stuff, to debate anymore. Do you find that that's still true?
Well, I think that is true, but look at what happened in the States. I mean, I'm in Canada, you're in the UK, this is happening all over campuses in both of our countries, but look what happened in the States. The backlash to the kind of most of the university campuses are very left, but the backlash to that is an authoritarian right. That's not good. That just adds to the rubble. So I think we need to kind of start coming back to the middle. That's the part that is really difficult to understand, and what I wanted to unpack is the middle is just going about their business. We need to bring it back, because you don't want to be shut down by the authoritarian right who's arresting people for writing op-eds. And go ahead, sorry.
Absolutely. Well, look, I highly recommend watching it. It's an excellent documentary. It's on BBC, surprisingly. But it really is a great documentary. Thank you very much for making it. Thank you for appearing here on Free Speech Nation. Big round of applause, please. Director of Speechless, Ric Esther Bienstock. Thank you also for joining us for Free Speech Nation. If you want to join us live in the studio, be part of our wonderful audience, you can. Please go to gbnews.com/tickets. Stay tuned for the brilliant Alex Armstrong tonight. That's next. And thank you very much for joining us. Have a wonderful week, and thank you to the audience. Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you, Josh. Tomorrow is being dubbed as Judgment Day for the Prime Minister, and I've got 5 charges that I think the Prime Minister is guilty of. Come and tune in and see if you agree with me. I'm also going to be talking about this RAF cadet that's been suspended because he said Islam is the greatest threat to Britain. Would he have been suspended if it was Christian white nationalists? We'll be digging into all of that and more on Alex Armstrong tonight. Join me in just a tick.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. This week should be mostly dry, feeling rather warm at times too in the far south and west, but along eastern areas a bit cooler and cloudier. For the time being though, today there's actually been quite a lot of warm sunshine out there. A few showers in the far northeast shown by this frontal system just drifting down into the North Sea, and this theme will continue through the overnight period. It's likely we'll see some coastal showers around any North Sea coast, just starting to clip into East Anglia as well, and this likely merging into longer spells of rain across the far northeast of Scotland through the early hours of the morning. But otherwise it's mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. That means temperatures will soon be dipping away. It's likely we'll see lows of around freezing with a patchy frost in places. Now, first thing on Monday, rather unsettled across the far north and northeast of Scotland. Some spells of rain here, but elsewhere across Scotland it should be mostly dry with some brighter spells. Quite a dry and bright start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but chilly with a rural frost, and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales. But there's a possibility we could see some very shallow mist and fog patches, these clearing relatively quickly through the course of the morning. And a mostly dry and bright start for many areas, though cloud will start to soon bubble up into the afternoon, and this will eventually be thick enough to produce some showers, though it should remain mostly dry across the far south. Northern Ireland should be mostly dry too, with some sunny spells, and it's likely we'll see continuous spells of rain across Scotland. Mostly light winds and temperatures a touch cooler, though highs still reaching around 14 to 15 degrees Celsius in the south. Now on Tuesday there could be some showery outbreaks to start, and we'll start to see quite a keen easterly breeze. That's going to make things feel a little bit chillier on Tuesday, but by the afternoon once again it should be mostly dry, plenty of sunny spells, just perhaps not feeling quite as warm as it has done over the weekend. And into next week, high pressure dominating, so more sunny spells to come, and feeling rather warm from Wednesday onwards.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks remaining to grab your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. You could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. This Benny Van 122 could give you the perfect getaway this year. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in, Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages. Because the news is going to happen. So get a head start today. Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Yes, that's right. It's 9 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong. On the show tonight.
Either he's trashing the ministerial code, or he's claiming he was repeatedly lied to by his own advisers and that he didn't know what was going on in his own house and his own office. Come off it.
When your own words come back to haunt you, is it D-Day for Keir Starmer tomorrow? Because tomorrow is the day many are saying the chickens have come home to roost for the beleaguered Prime Minister.
Very, very serious allegations. They paint a picture that actually leads to the Prime Minister, and the buck stops with him.
Yes, that was Keir Starmer in May 2021 on Sky.